You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box? What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. Oh, feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Who are you?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that again. Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Hey everyone, happy holidays and welcome to another episode of the Earth Station Who podcast. That's right, folks. The 9th episode is here. One more to go for new Doctor Who. It takes you away. Where does it take you? Why does it take you? And do you really care if it takes you? That's the big question of tonight's episode. We are going to be talking all about the newest episode of Doctor Who, and we got a lot of folks in here to talk all about it. But remember, folks, if you haven't seen this episode yet, please, we'll put us on pause. We'll sit here and wait, and we will, because we will be spoiling the hell out of this episode.
How exciting! Spoilers!
Okay, you've been warned. All right. We've got a great crew to talk all about it. We have a couple of guests with us tonight. Let's welcome our guest. First, for the first time on the show tonight, let's welcome Anthony. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi, thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, since this is your first time on Earth Station Who.
Yeah, so I am a blogger with the Story Geeks guys. So you can check us out at the storygeeks.com. I actually have another podcast that we do called The Story Cauldron, which is kind of similar. If you're familiar with the Story Geeks, we do kind of the same sort of thing, looking at the backgrounds and trying to explore deeper into the kind of geeky stories that we love. Well, we try to run the gamut, actually. But when Jay was asked to talk a little bit about Doctor Who, he said, I really don't have much to say, but I know a guy who does. And so that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Heath basically threw you in the fire.
Yeah. So we'll see what kind of sacrifice he's thrown me into here.
Oh, wait till you find out.
The story podcasts that you're on are pretty good. I definitely recommend them. I think the last one I heard you were on with the Story Geeks was, you covered Spider-Man, is that right?
Let's see. The last one that I was on with them was on Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one because I haven't seen that movie yet. But but I think, were you on the Spider-Man one?
I don't think I was. Maybe that was Garrett. I'm not sure. I've done some Jurassic Park, Jurassic World episodes.
Yes, I've heard those.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, those are good guys.
Yeah, they know how to ask questions that make you sit down to have to think about them. So
it's
always fun.
Great guys, but once again, they don't know much about Doctor Who.
Well, we'll forgive them for that, I suppose.
Yes.
Well, welcome aboard, Anthony. We're glad to have you here, and hope you survive the experience, as we like to say.
So do I.
And returning to us, of course, Mr. Kirby Bartlett Sloan. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
How are you, Kirby? We're used to having you not on Doctor Who all that much anymore, but more for the book club on the Earth Station 1 podcast.
Right. Hey, it's great to do this now because on the 20 Megabyte Doctor Who podcast, we wait a full week after each new story. And so I want to talk about it earlier than that.
Exactly. I'm sure you're chomping at the bit, so you'll get your chance tonight. We also have, of course, our regulars with us. Welcome back, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
How are you, my friend?
I am just fine. I'm all rested up after my week-long break. I appreciate Nicole's attempt to replace me by saying howdy.
She even wore a straw hat in your honor, dude.
She did. Yeah, that was fun. So no, I did listen up, so I'm all caught up as to how you guys were dealing with last week's episode. So this would be really interesting to see how that plays out with this week too, because I think a lot of the same things that were issues that we've talked about before, as well as last week, are going to pop up on this episode as well.
Agreed. And it's going to be very interesting to get everyone's take on it. But of course, we have also joining us the lovely Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It is great to be here.
How's things going in wonderful FLA?
Things have been very rainy, but we finally got some sun today, so things are looking up.
I know you actually thought you were moving to Seattle instead of Tallahassee.
Yeah, I was getting a little ridiculous there, but today was actually nice.
We're very glad to have everyone back for this episode. Please, we will definitely want to hear from you. So please write us at eswpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you guys thought of this one. Did you guys think, the bad guy was good? Was there really even a bad guy in this episode? What are your, what were your thoughts? We definitely want to hear from you. Please write us. We also, of course, we got a piece of email and we will read it at the end of the show, but you can also be involved too. Like we said, write us at the email address, or of course you could also call us at 404-963-9057 and we will play your message up on the air. Definitely love hearing what people think about Doctor Who, so it's definitely a plus. All right, let's get started with this week's episode. This time we went to Norway, and of course in present time. So no Vikings, folks. Sorry, but you had a lot of sheep. They were planning their revolution, of course.
Yes. Just watch out for the sheep.
Yes. Makes me really suspicious of wool from now on. It was an interesting episode. It was a lot different than what I was expecting. And once again, a very forgettable villain for this episode. And I'm finding that becoming a thing here on Earth Station Who's reviews, that we're finding it that way.
Are you considering Ribbons to be the villain or the Solitract?
That's a good question. What do you guys think?
Well, it's obviously the Flesh Moths.
I don't think there actually was a villain in this episode, except, maybe our fear of losing things and not being able to deal with that. But, I don't think Ribbons was much of a villain. In fact, I think he was the weak point. And that whole middle section kind of felt out of place to me.
If we're talking about characters who did things that were, for lack of a better word, evil, I'd say the dad wins the day for that one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
That was actually kind of disturbing how he's just left with the daughter at the end, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, seriously.
Sets up speakers to create a fake monster so she won't leave the house. Who does that?
Let's torture the blind kid. Come on.
She's fine. There's food in the freezer.
Yeah.
I'm going to board up all the windows and the whole house so my blind daughter doesn't escape while I'm gone with my wife.
That's what you want to do. That's what you do with a cat that you don't really like very much. You just, you throw some food down on the floor and say, she'll be fine for the weekend. But this is your daughter, dude. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's what you do with most teenagers. Come on,
I agree. I thought that guy was a pretty much waste of flesh.
I want to know where he gets those nice weatherproof speakers.
Yeah, especially in Norway.
IKEA. Oh, sorry, that's Swedish, isn't it?
Yes.
It was really sad because that is a gorgeous house, and I wouldn't mind living in that house. It was beautiful, the view of the lake, and you had the woods, and it was sad that she was there by herself, living in fear because of her father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a lake; it's a fjord.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. That's right. A fjord.
for it.
Well, that he was deliberately manipulating and controlling her through fear, which is a horrible. That's not a good parenting tactic. Everybody, that's
not Father of the Year material, folks.
No.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to make it seem like the soul attract was influencing him to do that or something, but they never did. They just kind of left it. That's just him. He's just a pretty crappy dad.
Yep. And then they leave afterwards. Okay, have fun with that.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
Now we'll just go back to where there's Wi-Fi and everything will be better.
Mm-hmm. You'll be able to have friends again, you know. It's
that does make everything better.
No, because he'll meet another woman and he'll dump her again.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. Those police cars are coming for you. They're going to arrest you, you know. Like, live in this closet where you're hiding. You know, it's just like, what?
I thought that this episode was actually a really good idea wrapped in a really, really bad idea. Because the first, 10 or 15 minutes, I was into it. I was excited. It was creepy. When they're at the house and before you realize, I think it was pretty much as soon as the speakers, as soon as it got to the speakers, I thought that's when I kind of lost it. Because I thought, man, this is going to be really exciting. It felt like I'll give a shout out to Daryl at the Story Geeks. It sounded, it felt like like A Quiet Place. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I did kind of think that was an influence early on in this episode, yeah.
But then somewhere 20, 30 minutes into it, it just completely switches. And now it's this, hey, let's talk to Goofy Godfrog thing. Which is, I liked that too, but for totally different reasons. They're like two totally different episodes smushed together, and it didn't, I don't know, it was pickles.
Well, it even had a little bit of Stranger Things in it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was the Upside Down completely.
Yes.
Yeah, good call.
And it was just like, oh man, what aren't they leaving out? They had, going through the mirror, they had the Upside Down, and then they had a talking frog.
Yeah, before I got a chance to watch this episode, I accidentally saw someone post online, and they just had one word to describe it, that it was bonkers. And I went in going, okay, this is going to be an odd one, and it is bonkers, but bonkers kind of, to me, is like a compliment. And I don't know that I would give this episode, it's not bonkers in a good way. Let's put it that way. It is kind of a mess as far as just all these elements that just don't make a lot of sense, and there's no payoff. There's characters introduced, there's things introduced that just go away, like ribbons or the moths or whatever. And it just, man, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with this episode at all. It just seems to not have a point to it, really.
Do you think?
I like the first and second act. I mean, the first and third acts. Even with the frog, I can live with the frog because I think the first and third acts are suffused with grief. And I mean, I kind of understand where they're coming from. I mean, there's some real daddy issues or parent issues going on here, obviously, with Ryan also, not just Hannah. And so, and I'm fine. I was fine with that, but that middle section just did not belong there. And it wasn't so much that it was badly done, but it just wasn't a part of the story.
I was actually really pissed at Ryan in this episode a bit because I felt like he was transferring his daddy issues onto the girl.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was.
And it's like, get over it already, dude. And it was just and then him lying about the message the doctor wrote to the poor blind girl. And it was just like, oh, it's a map. And it's just like, yeah, you are so stupid.
That was something that bothered me, though, for a different reason, because that wasn't his lie. That was the doctor's lie.
The doctor lies, though.
Well, yeah, but
everyone knows that.
But that's something that and maybe I'm just not remembering it, but that's something that I don't think we've seen from her. Not from this incarnation of the Doctor, have we? She seems like she's been much more genuine, much more upfront and almost like happy-go-lucky, which maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. But to see her deceive this girl in a way that, and I understand why she did it, like what the reasoning was, but it's just never addressed again. It seems like in other incarnations, they either commit to the fact that the Doctor is going to lie and he's just better than you, and so you're supposed to not kind of be surprised by it, or you have like David Tennant being all apologetic after the fact. And maybe that's like this episode again, where it's like trying to do two very different things at the same time, and it just ends up not really doing either one of them well.
Could be. I found that the writing of the Doctor was very look, I think we've talked about how Jodie as during her time so far has really made great work out of some stuff that she's had to like tolerate. Like some of the scripts are just really bad, and she's managing to make the most of them, if not more than that. I mean, she's done really well. I think in this episode, this is like she reaches her limit to a point. Like there's two scenes in particular that, as much as she tried, she didn't sell me at all. And one of the scenes is when she's in the caverns, and she's the anti-zone, and she says that when she figures out what's going on, she's like, I'm really scared. Like, I'm terrified. And I'm like, you're telling me that you're terrified, but I don't really believe that you're terrified.
Yeah.
And the other one is at the end, when she's talking to the frog and she's like, I made a friend. And I'm like, I'm not buying it. I don't know if it's because the CG on the frog is some of the worst I've ever seen. I'm like, couldn't they really just call up the Muppets or something? Like, this is bad. Like,
was it CG or was it a puppet?
But she didn't, like, I didn't feel the love and the excitement and the compassion coming from her in that scene that I think that it should have, that they wanted anyway. So, and I hate to lay that at Jodie's feet, but it's probably the writing in combination of which, but it just didn't work for me.
Well, they were trying too hard with the frog. I mean, the frog was a gimmick. I mean, it's supposed to tie back to the frog necklace.
Yeah.
Story about Graham and Nat. And
sure, and I don't mind that, but I'm like, come on, this day and age, we can make a better frog than this.
Like, if it's going to be a frog, make it look good.
Yeah, well, it didn't even need to be a frog. I mean, it was just detracted from the whole scene.
Or, they
Judy was really happy about it that it was a frog. It was really, she was like, oh, a frog! It's like,
they could have made it like, and like they could have used some sort of toy frog and referenced that, and then had that play out so that it like looked a little bit better if that's what if they were struggling with the CG on this thing. But they opted to try to make it look like a real frog, and it
well
the mouth wasn't even synced to the voice.
No, it really was.
Well, and the voice was Grace's. I mean, just have grace, You don't need it to be a frog.
Yeah.
Surprised it wasn't Grace.
I I missed out last week, and I thought Jodie was on fire like last episode. The Witchfinders is one of my favorite episodes of the season. Might be my favorite episode of the season, actually. And I think probably most of that is due to Jodie and being an active Doctor in that one, and just owning every scene that she's in. But in this one, I just find that she it's difficult, and she doesn't have a lot to work with. I give her that, but oof. And that goes for, the other companions as well. They don't have anything to do except, once again, Bradley Walsh gets like the big emotional scene and takes over the show. And I'm kind of like, I love Bradley Walsh a lot, and I've been praising him this season because I enjoy watching him. But it occurred to me over the last couple of episodes that his character shouldn't even be on this show, because he just takes away from everybody else. He really does. His character takes away from some of the Doctor to have moments. Then you end up with Ryan, and Yaz does nothing in this episode. It would have made much more sense if you had Yaz and Ryan in this episode, only those two, and then Yaz could have stayed with the girl, and Ryan could have had the big emotional scene. Like Dawson hasn't had anything to do like that. I mean, like this could have been a big, nice scene for him, but instead, nope, we get Bradley again.
No, it's true. And yeah, you felt for Graham, having to see her again, but I wanted Ryan to have that kind of emotional thing, that kind of scene. He had to do something. Yeah, I did a fist pump when he was smart enough to figure out there were speakers outside. But, oh my God, he actually did something. But,
but I was kind of like...
And then he got beat up by a blind girl.
How did he come to the conclusion that the father put him out there?
Well, because the wires were coming from inside the house.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But then, he got beat up by a blind girl, like Kirby just said.
Yes, he did.
But, I actually think Hannah's a great character. I actually think she's one of the strongest points of this episode.
Oh, I agree.
Hannah doesn't take it. She's like, I know you're lying to me. Stop it.
Yeah. No, she's pretty good.
Right. And it's like, okay, you keep lying to me. Well, whap, I'll hit you over the door and do what I want and get what I want because, it's the only way I'm going to find my father again. You bozos aren't helping. So.
It seemed like Yaz's only purpose was to make the Third Doctor reference.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Yaz hasn't had anything to do the whole series, practically. I mean, even in the episode that was supposed to be about her family, she still wasn't the center of the episode.
Right.
It always seems to skew towards Graham, as we've been talking about all along. I mean, he got that same moment with Grace almost in the spider episode when he went back to the apartment.
Yeah, we've already seen this. Like, it's nothing new. I mean, and like I said, Bradley does a great job. I feel the emotion. He's nailing it. But I'm at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, this shouldn't be you, man. Like, this should be Ryan. Like, I really felt like it should have been Ryan in this episode.
What did you think of the Doctor doing the ultimate sacrifice for everybody else to stay behind while everyone else was saved?
I didn't buy it.
Yeah, it just didn't seem real because you knew she was going to get out of it.
I think that my take was that she knew that she'd find a way out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't, she didn't sell it, frankly. But I'm not sure, I can blame Jodie for that because she just, the way it was written, it was very obvious.
No.
I love parts of this episode. There are parts of this, I'm very up and down on this episode because I love the character of Hannah. I love that first part when we're in the forest and how atmospheric it is and how when they're approaching the house and they don't know what's going on. It's a great beginning, but it really goes off the rails.
It's interesting. And I think I felt like this time I actually felt like Jodie was getting angry, in it. I felt, other than her being the fluffy doctor we've seen, I think in this one, I actually felt like, she was like, this is not real, get over it, type thing. And she was trying to do it, and you could feel her frustration with both, with Graham and with Eric.
At the same time, I was also really confused by the string that the Doctor uses for no apparent reason. Like
it was supposed to be a tether so they could find their way back out.
Right. But then they find their way back out without the tether, without any real trouble.
Wibbly wobbly, tiny wimey. Come on.
Yeah, I guess it's just. I mean, plus, if the tether was going to be that important in the first place, I mean, as soon as she ties it and starts walking away, it shows you how unstable it is, how it's wobbling back and forth. Like, I mean, if that was another one of those little things that could have been a really cool or interesting or even intense idea but it just kind of fizzled out.
I had the feeling that it was a reference to the mind robber.
Really?
Yeah, because it's they have a Theseus segment in the mind robber, don't they?
For those who don't know, you want to go into a little more detail, Kirby? I love putting you on the spot like that.
yeah, put me on the spot. Hang on. Talk about something else while I find my reference.
Okay. What did you guys think of, of course, of Ribbons? I thought when I saw him at first, I thought he looks very similar to what Tim Shaw looked like. Same race almost in some ways. But, it was also, but then also, the first David Tennant episode, what was it? The Sycorax?
Yeah, the Sycorax.
He looked similar to them also. And, it's like, and of course he carries 2 knives. Of course, all bad guys do.
But, that whole middle part felt very Doctor's Wife to me. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, except it just had no place. Had no place there. And the guy who was playing Ribbons was fine. The segment was fine, but it just came out of nowhere.
I don't understand how Ribbons knows how to barter, why there's one light, how he made it. He doesn't belong there.
And what else are the Flesh Moths eating if he's the only one there?
Right.
The rats, the 6-legged rats.
That's true. There are rats.
No, that's true. There were the rats.
Did anyone else have I was really confused when Ryan just ran up and recognized that the weird floating ball thing was a lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that whole middle section just did not make sense.
Yeah.
No, it was the inside, upside down. So basically, he was just looking for the kid.
Well, I think, if it had gone somewhere, if it had tied in somehow with the rest of the story, you could have got away with it, but it didn't.
And I did find it interesting, though, when Hannah came out on the other side of the mirror and her mother came up to her and says, "Hannah, it's me, it's Mom." And she was like, "No, you're not." She knew right away.
Mm-hmm.
That was just interesting. Did she sense it? Because, she couldn't see her. So what else was she sensing?
Yeah, they had some little real quick line about how something about vibrations, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
That she could sense the vibrations or something like that. But I thought that was another piece in the, this is a really interesting character who didn't have nearly enough screen time to flesh that out. In Hannah, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was one of those stories where, and this has happened in Doctor Who before, where the writer has so many ideas, and they're not bad, but instead of concentrating on one or two, they just kind of spread too thin, and so none of them get really developed. And so you just have kind of a mess of a story rather than a coherent tale.
Yeah, it kind of, I was trying to think of episodes from recent years that were kind of like this. Just from last season, the one with the pyramid, that 2-part episode that felt like it was actually 5 or 6 different parts.
Yes.
It was just a bunch of random stuff all thrown together. Yeah, it was kind of that. This one kind of reminded me of that. I had the same kind of feeling where, like you just said, it was almost like a Family Guy episode or something, where there's just a bunch of random things that, you can kind of string them together. No pun intended, but.
Intend the pun.
Yeah.
Speaking of Twine, I did discover, yes, there is a section in the Mind Robber. That's a second Doctor story where the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, end up in a universe or planet something where they go into various stories. They meet Gulliver and stuff, and they end up in the Theseus's maze with the Minotaur. And the Doctor just happens to pull out a ball of twine to go through the maze. And eventually they run out of the twine because the maze is so convoluted. But they make a big deal of the twine. And I think that's the same. I think that Chibs is referencing that scene.
Well, that obviously could be, although with this particular, the way that they've worked things, it's like their references to past Doctor Who moments has been so few and far between. Like I would definitely think if we were in the RTD or Stephen Moffat era, be like, oh yeah, that's a reference to that. This season, I'm not so sure. Like usually the stuff that they've been referencing is kind of like really on the nose. But
yeah, but Fusion Akita 3 times now.
Yeah, I know, right? And you know, I don't know. It could be. I mean, if not, I mean, if it is, that's cool. I appreciate that, and it didn't bother me as much as like a lot of other stuff in there bothered me. Like I just once you realize what it is, you're kind of like, how does Eric go back and forth with no problem? Like I don't. Yeah,
that didn't make sense because he said that he couldn't, and yet he had to have.
Well, multiple times, obviously.
Well,
how did he find out about it? Did he find it when they got to the cabin? Did he, somehow did she reach out to him through whatever? Come to the cabin, Eric. You could find your old wife. You don't know.
That was something that I was hoping for back when it was still at the beginning of the episode and you still thought it was going to be a horror episode, when Graham's like being drawn to the mirror. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, I mean, maybe this is like the light, bringing in the moth to get zapped or something. But again, then it just fizzles out and it's like they move on to some other idea.
Yeah, and to continue with the moth thing, I mean they have the flesh eating moths, which are like, it seems like this season when they've tried to do like, oh, we're going to try to make a harmless object scary for people, like that Doctor Who does, like they did with the bubble wrap, it just falls flat.
Yeah, I can't think of that without laughing.
Bubble wrap eating moths. That's what's coming up.
That live in the mud.
I want to see the flesh moths fight those talking floating rags.
God, I'm getting a Slurpee headache from you guys right now. Sorry. Oh, ow.
I mean, I think the idea of a sentient universe that cannot exist for more than a few moments with any other living thing without destroying everything is actually a cool idea. But it's surrounded by so many other ideas and not developed that when you're supposed to have the Doctor's big moment when she's interacting with it, it just completely falls flat.
Yeah, totally. I know that this season is not supposed to have like a big a big arc, connecting all of the episodes. But that would have been such a cool thing if they wanted to do that. If they wanted to have like, maybe have mirrors be kind of creepy all through every episode here or there, or have Graham like slowly being sucked into mirrors here and there. Or maybe he sees Grace in the mirrors and then here we find out, oh yes, it's this sentient universe that's like beckoning, and like that could have been there was potential there, but they just kind of spend it all here in this one clumsy go in this one episode.
I did love the scene though when it was Graham and Ryan upstairs and they saw the mirror for the first time, and they were both like, I don't remember being turned into a vampire, do you?
Yeah.
That was pretty darn
that was a good line.
Had they been to Venice?
The vampires of the Ford. So, yeah, it was just like, it was interesting to see. And there were good points. And like you guys said, the first act and the third act were great. Now we just got to edit that second part out, somehow.
Just like the rest of the season, visually, it was wonderful.
Oh, it was stunning. And once again, the scenery, especially when they were in Norway, was just awesome.
I assume that was Wales again.
Oh, I'm sure.
Did they go to Norway?
I don't think they went.
I don't think they went to Norway. I'm looking on the notes, and it doesn't say anything about that.
But yeah, the production design, the art design, the scenery, the costumes, all of that has been top notch this series. I mean, I loved the muted colors, the very sort of soft muted tones, even in Hannah, the way Hannah looks. And, it looks like Norway, and this sort of angular look, the lighting. I mean, it's beautifully done. I mean, I wish there was a better storyline to support that, because throughout the whole series, because the production design has blown me away, and most of the CGI has been good. The frog notwithstanding. For the most part, you can tell they're spending money on this, and they're really trying to make it look beautiful, and they've done a great job at it. I really wish the writing was as good as the production design.
No, I agree. I agree. It was very well done, and that's partly what makes this season fun. Is some of the cinematography has been amazing this season, and they're continuing on that. So we have one more episode to go, folks.
Yeah, I kind of stumble right before the finale, really. So I'm not as I'd like to be, usually by this time, I'm really excited for a Doctor Who finale. And I don't know what to expect next week, because it's been a long time since we've had a season that didn't build and build and build up to the finale. So, it's just another episode, really. Will they pull things from other episodes this season? Maybe, I don't know. I barely saw the preview. As you guys know, I don't really try to seek all that stuff out. So I don't know what to expect, but I got to tell you that, as we're going into it, I think I mentioned this before, but I think I can safely say now that we've only got one more episode left that, I think since New Who came back, this is my least favorite season. Like, it's just like the writing on it has just been not that good. I love Jodie, and usually she shines. In this episode, I didn't think she did as well. And they've really had a problem with, you guys made a point last week, which I thought, we didn't really say out loud, but until last week. So I think, it bears repeating that I do think Bradley Walsh Graham is in the way, and, you've got this wonderful diverse cast, and you're giving a lot of lead plot, like a lot of lead scenes to the white guy,
Yeah, he's hard not to like.
No, I agree completely.
It seems to undermine everybody else on the show.
Sure.
And I hate that Bradley's been put in that position, because I think he's phenomenal.
I think he's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, exactly. I think him and Jodie have been the shining lights of this season.
Yeah.
But the difference is that it's Jodie's show, and it shouldn't be Bradley's show.
No, exactly.
There's too many companions.
Exactly. Do you think they rectify that the next season?
Who knows?
Who knows? Did for people who did see the Next Time trailer, did it sound like the voice of Tim Shaw?
I didn't pay that much attention like Mike. I wanted to be surprised. I guarantee it's Tim Shaw. I could almost guarantee it.
Well, I think that the Stens are the only thing that's been referenced in more than one episode. other than the obvious stuff like family members. But
well, yeah, the Stenza,
I think I might be right about that.
Stenza have been touched on three episodes.
Yes, 3 episodes.
So yeah, I almost guarantee it that has something to do with it, which I'd be disappointed with because I thought it would be pretty cool. I know that voice, and it's Captain Jack Harkness.
I do think it's been interesting that I don't expect them to tie it together, but I do think it's interesting that in the first episode there was the fact that this alien race was using Earth as its sort of playground in order to do trials and hunts and gaming, that kind of thing. And then we find out later in another episode last week that another race was using Earth to imprison some bad aliens. And in this one, we find out that there's a connection that this other alternate universe has with Earth. And it seems like almost that there's like the universe or something has is aware that the Doctor is either different or like almost like, hey, the Earth's open season now. Like, I don't want to say it's because the Doctor's a woman, but it seems like the universe is like, hey, everybody, the Earth is not off limits anymore. Let's attack it and let's do all this stuff with it. And that's problematic if they don't address it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. They need to wrap it up, and who knows where this will go, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
Can I ask, what do you think the chances are that Graham's going to survive the season?
100%.
Yeah, we've seen him in the pictures for the New Year's story.
Oh, wow.
Well, they have said that all through. I mean, look, they could do whatever they want. They could, promotional wise, we could be faking out. Like if they can CG the Hulk in ads for Infinity War, they can do anything with Graham. But
well, especially now that Ryan called him grandfather.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I'm thinking. Like if it weren't for that New Year's episode, I would put most of my chips on the rather cheesy notion that Graham's going to die to join Grace in the last episode, especially if the Stenza come back. There'd be some bookends of having the same villain kill.
I would say he was going to die in Saving Ryan.
Oh yeah, and then give him a fist bump,
and then he goes poof.
From the bubble wrap, that's right.
Exactly.
Or perhaps they'll find a way of bringing Grace back to life.
And then she can join the Team TARDIS.
Yeah.
So it's 4 companions. Yay! Okay. Any final thoughts, folks, before we wrap this one up? Wow. Once again, you guys are so full of energy there. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and rate this. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. All right. Kirby, you get to go first tonight.
3. I loved how it looked. It had some interesting ideas in it. Ribbons didn't make sense. And the frog was strange. So,
I think that makes sense. Okay. Mary.
Boy, this is one of those episodes I have kind of a love-hate relationship with because
There's a lot of those this season, though.
Yeah, there are. I like my Doctor Who to be this kind of surreal, absurdist fairy tale / horror type of story. I mean, I love those things, but it still has to hold together as a whole, and this just didn't. And it's really too bad. It's very frustrating because I see a lot of potential here in this writer. There's so many good ideas, but there's too many. He should have focused in on some and made that the core of the story because it just is all over the place and becomes a big mess. And that's too bad because there's some really great themes here to explore, the father issues and how Ryan is allowing his fear and anger and sadness at his own father's desertion to color his actions, and and the fear of loss and what we need to do to not drown in that and get over it. But it just went nowhere, and it kind of makes me sad that this whole series has kind of gone nowhere. And I hope it picks up next season, because I think Jodie Whittaker is a brilliant Doctor. So I can't give this episode more than a 3, I think.
No, I agree. Okay. Anthony.
Well, I'm not sure if I could really say anything that Mary didn't just say. Part of me wants to give this episode 2 different ratings, because it feels like 2 different episodes stitched together poorly. But the joint of them together, it's somewhere between a 2 and a 3, maybe a 3, just because it was gorgeous, like you guys rightly described. But like, if it had just been creepy, something in the woods, maybe the dad's really evil, then it could have been a 3, or it could have been a 4, maybe. If it had been kooky, let's talk to the God Frog. Let's right at the very beginning when the Doctor's like tasting the dirt and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I love that. Yeah, like if they had just leaned into that, or like one or the other, let it be creepy or let it be kooky, but don't try. It's not going to work if it's both.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Don't you want a little bit of soil, guys?
Yeah.
That was pretty darn awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'd say, 2 or 3, maybe a 3.
Okay. Mikey.
Anthony mentioned that it's kind of reminiscent of some of the other episodes of New Who. My first thought was Fear Her. And because it has like sort of the similar vibe for me than that does. But it's obviously very different. And there's some potential here, as Mary points out, in the hands of a gifted writer. Like, to use like one of the best, Douglas Adams could have had a wonderful time with this. It would have. It has all the elements of a Chronicles of Narnia or Labyrinth type adventure, where you're meeting weird characters along the journey and have an emotional outcome at the end. It could have been a really like positive thing like that, but the ball is dropped big time all over the place here. And usually this season, I can say that Jodie and the performances by the others have make up for it, but I can't do that this one. So I'm going to have to give it. I'm going to give it a 2, 2.5, because this is the bottom for me.
Wow.
Well, you know something. Douglas Adams really did have a hand in it, because Slarty Bartfast designed that fjord.
That's right, he did.
That's right.
That's another reason why I think I thought of him, Kirby. I was just like, oh man, like, I could definitely see where, and they, like I said, in the hands of, a more gifted guy, we could have gotten some, it could have been sort of like Time Bandits-esque, with that sort of frantic craziness. And I think they try that. Ribbons is an example where they're trying for that, but it just doesn't work.
Oh, exactly. There was something missing from it, and I call it a true second act. That was missing. I'm going to give this one a 3.5, because I did like the first and the third acts, as we've said throughout the show. I enjoyed some of the characters. I think, once again, I'm going to say it once more, open-ended ending. It took care of the alternate universe, but you had a really crappy father there being left with his blind daughter, and it's not going to be a happy ending on that one.
And the universe is still, the Solid Track's still out there.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's gone. Like, be careful, that frog you might want to kiss is not a prince. It's the universe.
Exactly. It'll pull you through. It's like, poof.
Maybe the universe just needs Wi-Fi.
See, that would have been funny. That would have been in the episode.
Mm-hmm. That could have been really interesting. So yeah, so we definitely want to hear from you guys at home. Please write at eswpodcast@gmail.com. Speaking of our email address, we got another piece of email. That's right, folks. Our friend, our regular writer, actually, Robert McIntyre, wrote us again.
Yay!
And Robert actually talked about this episode. He said, "Hey guys, a quick email to let you know that I had my doctor moment finally in this week's 9th episode. The scene where the doctor is willing to give everyone up and spend the rest of her life with the Sultrak to not only save her life, save her friends' lives, the father of the little girl in the universe was for me the point where I actually said, that's the doctor. I know it's just a small part of the story, but for me, where I saw the soul of the doctor shine through. The episode overall is one of the better ones of the season, although again, the villain was largely forgettable and turned out to be more sad than menacing, even as a frog. Oh, and I have a phobia of moths, so the flesh-eating ones in this episode left me very uncomfortable. Keep up the great work. Your friend, Rob McIntyre."
I am jealous, Robert, because I want my doctor moment and I haven't got it yet.
See, I got my doctor moment in the very first episode.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
When she finally said, "I'm the doctor," when Tim Shaw said, "Who are you?" And that was my doctor moment, because that's when, she pronounced herself, "I am the doctor." And it was just like, yes, she's here. And, I could definitely understand that, because Robert and I have talked about that, and he didn't feel it at that point.
Yeah,
and I know Mikey hasn't felt it yet either.
No, I mean, I thought that was a good scene, but it's kind of like when Matt's first episode, when he says, the earth is protected and all that kind of stuff. It's a good scene, but I didn't really feel it till later on, and I'm still waiting for her to have one.
And hopefully you'll get it next week, because if not, you're going to have a long wait. Oh, but thank you, Robert, for writing. And we definitely want to hear from more of you. Please give us a write or give us a call, 404-963-9057. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let's thank everybody who is up on the show tonight. Kirby, thank you, my friend.
Hey, it's always fun to be on.
Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, you can find me over on the 20 megabyte Doctor Who podcast, where once this current season ends, where we're talking about these like you guys are, we are going back into our journey through watching and talking about every single Doctor Who story.
Wow, with a bang.
We are right in the middle of Tom Baker, and we'll be doing Invasion of Time.
Oh, great story, too. That is an awesome one. Well, that's very cool. And it's a great podcast, folks. If you get the chance to listen to it, please do. It's always fun because, you get takes from different parts of the world. So it's pretty neat.
Yep.
And also Kirby can be found on the Earth Station 1 podcast with the ESO Book Club. So check it out. Definitely. He's a regular up there. Anthony, thank you so much for being here. You made it through your first episode.
Ooh, yeah, with no moths crawling out of my skull or anything. No, this is fun.
Yet.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just have to run and then turn.
No, don't run.
No, don't run.
Well, okay, fair.
That'll check the others.
This was a lot of fun. I liked talking about this with you guys.
It was a lot of fun. Do you want to do a quick promote?
Yeah. So you can find more of the Story Geeks stuff at thestorygeeks.org. Actually, I think I said .com earlier, and I'm sure Jay died a little inside. Actually, I think it all goes to the same place, but thestorygeeks.org.
Jay doesn't watch Doctor Who, so he won't listen to this.
That's true. But or the storycauldron.com is still up. We're kind of in the process of maybe transitioning some stuff, but I can say I don't. If not here, I don't know where I would ever say this. But actually, do you know have you seen those Doctor Who and philosophy books, or more Doctor Who and philosophy?
Yeah, I saw one at the bookstore.
Yeah, more Doctor. I actually have a chapter in the second one. So yeah, you can see what I had to say in that book about Amy Pond and Friedrich Nietzsche, which was a fun thing to write.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, but maybe that's a conversation for another time.
I think we might need to have you up on the podcast again after the season's over.
I think I might be up for that.
Very awesome. And let's thank our regulars for being here. Mr. Mike, always great to have you, my friend.
And as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about?
Well, of course, we're doing our weekly nonsense over on the Earth Station. On the Earth Station, I almost said.
How many years has it been?
Where am I again? Yeah, it's so confusing. And also, I do want to give a shout out too, because we're recording our last one tomorrow, at least last one for now. But I've been recording a series of episodes with Ashley Pauls. Speaking of Story Geeks, as well as Earth Station 1. And she's, of course, been watching a lot of movies that she's never got a chance to, but people have been telling her that she should watch. It's called the Better Late Than Never series. And we are about to record an episode inspired by you, Mike, with The Big Lebowski. And that'll be available only to our Patreon listeners. So if you go to esonetwork.com and subscribe, you can hear all the fun stuff that we're going to talk about with the dude.
Like whatever, man. It's cool. Awesome. That is very cool. I'm looking forward to hearing what Ashley has to say about it. I did read her review up on the Earth Station 1 website on the blog up there. So very cool. Definitely you can check out her writings almost every week. She posts something up on esonetwork.com. And she also posts as a regular blogger up on the Story Geeks. So you can definitely check that out also. And Mary, last but not least.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be here and talk about this.
Mary?
Even mediocre Doctor Who is still better than 95% of what everything else on TV is. So,
oh, very much so. Anything you want to shout out about or promote?
Oh, you can find my artwork on maryogle.com, and you can find me on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Fantastic. Of course, we will be back again next week, and we are going to be done with this season. That's right. Episode 10 is here. It just felt like we started talking about this season, but we are wrapping it up, folks, and it's going to be called The Battle of Razkur av Kaloso.
And Chris Chibnall's back.
Exactly. So, yay, Chris. Okay. So let's just take it at that. We will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Have a great holiday season. Hope everyone is doing well. If you're celebrating Hanukkah, if you're celebrating Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, or just being with your family, just enjoy yourselves. We will see you here on Earth Station Who next time. Peace, and we're done.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
Do you enjoy TV shows, movies, video games, comics, or novels? Do you enjoy listening to people discuss geeky topics without getting bent out of shape when they disagree? If you do, then the 42 Cast is right for you. We're a podcast with a rotating cast of guests that discusses a new topic every week. You can find us on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, or 42cast.com. You can also support us and the entire ESO network by going to patreon.com/ESO network. That's the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic Store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.